It's really hot, huh? Pardon me, but don't you ever sweat?
No, I don't.
Well, listen.
He's cool as a cucumber.
Well, say something.
Say something, I'm giving up on you. Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, I'm Mr. Valentine. Nice to cross paths with you. Today I'm going to be watching the 1957 film 12 Angry Men. All I know about this movie is that it is up there in the pantheon of great films. So I'm excited to see what this movie has in store for your boy, and I'm glad you could be here today. If you're interested in supporting this channel, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, leave me some comments down yonder so I can have a little familiarity with the algorithm. And I also have a partnership with YouTube, so if you're interested, you can join the channel over here next to that subscribe button. Hit that join button, and it gives you opportunities to leave a curated comment. You know, Office theme, if you're an Office fan like myself. I got a couple of options to express oneself through the lens of Michael Scott and Company. You can get early access to all of my videos as well as extended versions of said videos. Usually I incorporate about 30 to 40 extra minutes on my Patreon. So if that tickles your fancy, be my guest. If not, the easiest way is to just like this video. I enjoy watching movies with fellow movie lovers. Thank you to all my patrons over there on the Patreon and your continued support. But without further ado, 12 Angry Men coming at you hot. Let's go.
A premeditated murder is the most serious charge tried in our criminal courts. It's now your duty to sit down and try and separate the facts from the fancy.
Facts from the fancy. That's my name of my next memoir.
However you decide, your verdict must be unanimous. In the event that you find the accused guilty, the bench will not entertain a recommendation for mercy.
That's such a supremely interesting arrangement. All people of a jury have to agree, or it's a gridlock, it's a deadlock, an impasse. That's interesting.
The jury will now retire.
Oh, the aforementioned 12 Angry Men.
Hey, I called the weather bureau this morning. This is going to be the hottest day of the year. You'd think that at least air condition these places. What's your names?
Oh man. So it's already with the backdrop of extreme heat. You know what that does psychologically to a person and its impact on decision making.
I never knew they locked the door.
Sure they locked the door. What you think?
I don't know. It just never occurred to me.
Does that obtain? Do they really lock the door, the jurors in where they can't go anywhere? Locked up, they won't let the jurors out.
What did you think of the case? I tell you, we were lucky to get a murder case. I figured that's for assault or burglary. Boy, they give me the dullest.
He's rooting for murder. Such a clinical approach.
But I happen to have tickets to that ball game tonight. Yanks in Cleveland. He's a real bull, this kid. Boom! Real jug hand. You know? Boom! You're a real baseball fan, aren't you?
Twice for emphasis. Boom.
We'd like to get started.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The kid kills his father, Bing, just like
Oh,
that.
listen, you analyze the figures, you'll see that was all.
Oh, patricide is the charge. It's not a picayune accusation then, huh? Who's this guy, Tyrion? Is Tyrion on trial?
Have a first-degree murder charge here, and if we vote the accused guilty, we've got to send him to the chair. That's mandatory.
I think we know that.
Yeah, let's see who's where.
I mean, I'm not necessarily a fan of capital punishment, but I'm partial to lowercase punishment.
All those voting guilty, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, that's 11 guilty. Those voting not guilty? 1. Right.
We got one salmon swimming upstream.
There's always one.
Oh, what do we do now?
Exactly. There is always one.
You really think he's innocent? I don't know.
He's 18 years old.
Well, that's old enough. He stabbed his own father 4 inches into the chest.
There were 11 votes for guilty. Not easy to raise my hand and send a boy off to die without talking about it first.
Well, I hope.
The ramifications are severe. It's worth an exploration of logic.
We're talking about somebody's life here. We can't decide it in 5 minutes, supposing we're wrong.
Supposing we're wrong. Supposing this whole building should fall down on my head. You can suppose anything.
That's right.
That's an argument of sorts.
Ball game doesn't start till 8 o'clock.
This guy over here. This guy is calling me out.
A wild, angry kid, that's all he's ever been. And you know why? Because he's been hit on the head by somebody once a day, every day. He's had a pretty miserable 18 years. I just think...
18 years. That's a lot to experience. It's like death by 1,000 cuts. Got the deck is stacked against him.
You're not going to tell me that we're supposed to believe this kid knowing what he is? Listen, I've lived among them all my life. You can't believe a word they say. You know that. I mean, they're born liars.
Only an ignorant man can believe that.
Now, listen.
Do you think you were born with a monopoly on the truth? I think certain things should be pointed out to this man.
Come on, this isn't Sunday. We don't need a sermon.
He's taking a stand. He's taking a stand. You don't just assume somebody's riddled with mendacity, sight unseen, just based on their socioeconomic status.
Well, look, maybe this is an idea. Now, I haven't given it much thought, but it seems to me that it's up to the group of us to convince this gentleman that he's wrong and we're right. Now, maybe if we each took a couple of minutes just to, well, it was just a quick idea.
No.
He faltered. He bailed. He's like, I'm going to abandon that line of thought.
It's hard to put into words. I just think he's guilty. I thought it was obvious from the word go.
What? That's an abominable approach. Just like, I intuitively think he's guilty.
The old man lived downstairs under the room where the killing took place. And he heard the kid yell out, "I'm gonna kill you."
I mean, that sounds like circumstantial evidence if ever I've heard it.
He claimed he was at the movies during the time of the killing, and yet 1 hour later, he couldn't remember the names of the films he saw or who played in them.
Maybe it didn't leave an impression on him. I've seen many a movie that I cannot synopsize.
His window was right opposite hers across the L tracks, and she swore she saw him do it.
I mean, that's a compelling piece of evidence, though, so you can kind of empathize with these 11 men who are saying this guy is guilty as charged.
You don't believe the boy's story. How come you believe the woman's? She's one of them, too, isn't she?
You're a pretty smart fella, aren't you?
He put a little oomph on the word them. Scathing.
I was looking for a motive. That's very important because if you don't have a motive, where's your case, right?
It's a fair point. But that's not accounting for evil. Evil often has no reason or logic behind it.
You heard the father hit the boy twice. Finally, they saw the boy run angrily out of the house. What does that prove?
Don't exactly prove anything. It's just part of the
Well, you
picture.
said it provided a motive. And the prosecuting attorney said the same thing. I don't think that was a very strong motive.
I mean, yeah, it does paint one hell of a picture. Arrows pointing at this kid.
I can't see 2 slaps in the face provoking him into committing murder.
It may have been too many. Everyone has a breaking point. Anything else?
No.
It could be. It stands to reason that those 2 slaps were the 2 straws that broke the proverbial camel's back.
When he was 15, he was at reform school. He stole a car. He's been arrested for mugging. He was picked up twice for knife fighting. Oh, yeah.
I mean,
he's real handy with a knife.
he got a rap sheet, but a delinquent child does not a murderer make.
When he was 9 years old, he ran away from a fight. I saw it. I was so embarrassed I almost threw up. He said, "I'm going to make a man out of you if I have to break you in 2 trying." Well, I made a man out of him.
Oh.
When he was 16, we had a fight. Hit me in the jaw, his big kid. Haven't seen him for 2 years.
Oh, so you have a son the same age as the defendant. This guy exudes machismo.
He was born in a slum. Slums are breeding grounds for criminals. I know it, and so do you. It's no secret children from slum backgrounds are potential menaces to society. Now, I think...
Brother, you can say that again. The kids who crawl out of these
I mean,
places
yeah.
are a real
It's not unsound, but that's taking a leap of generalization. Painting with a broad stroke. Broad stroke.
Okay, look, let's stop the arguing. We're only wasting time.
Oh, that's touching. That's a touching shot right there, including the whole intimacy of the cinematography. But that he's still looking at the picture of his son, an obvious wound in his soul.
Stop being a kid, will ya?
What do you mean a kid?
Well, what do you think I mean? K-I-D, kid.
He spells it.
Take the chair, that's all.
Ever
See,
see
you keep
such
it
a
running.
thing?
Listen, you think it's funny or
Hey,
something?
forget it, fella. The whole thing's
Uh-oh.
unimportant.
About to engage in fisticuffs. It's an important detail that the air conditioning does not work and it's searing inside. So that is contributing to the overall tenor of the conversation. Not unlike the plot of Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing, one of my favorite films.
I'd have asked for another lawyer, I think. If I was on trial for my life, I'd want my lawyer to tear the prosecution witnesses to shreds, or at least try to.
Throw anything at the wall, see what sticks. Unless it was a public public defender, then he's oversaturated with cases.
Talk to... Be quiet a second, will you? Well, what about it? The knife this fine, upright boy had...
Damn, guy.
They identified the death weapon in court as that very same knife. He arrived home at about 10 o'clock. Now, this is where the story is offered by the state.
I'm enjoying the way the camera is moving.
Now, what happened to the switch knife? He claims that it fell through a hole in his pocket on the way to the movie sometime between 11:30 and 3:10, and that he never saw it again. Now, there is the tale, gentlemen. I think
Yeah.
it's quite clear that the boy
It sounds like a stretch, objectively, but it's not implausible.
even remembered to wipe the knife clean of fingerprints. Now, are you trying to tell me that this knife really fell through a hole in the boy's pocket? Someone picked it up off the...
Yowza.
Oh, I'm just saying it's possible the boy lost his knife and that somebody else stabbed his father with a similar knife. It's just possible.
Take a look at this knife.
Gotta prove beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Where did that come from?
Plot twist. There goes your argument for the distinctiveness of said knife.
I bought that in a little pawn shop just 2 blocks from the boy's house. It cost $6.
It's against the law to buy or sell switchblade knives.
And the plot thickens.
So if you want to be stubborn and hang this jury, go ahead. The kid will be tried again and found guilty as sure as he's born.
It's like they're itching to send this young man to the guillotine with no compunction.
Guilty. Guilty.
All right, so
Guilty.
everybody then,
Guilty.
or is it just gonna be that one fella? Oh,
Not guilty.
we got Discord. We got Discord.
Boy, how do you like that?
Oh, another chap flips his wings.
All right.
You sit here, vote guilty like the rest of us, then some golden-voiced preacher starts tearing your poor heart out. Why don't you drop a quarter in this collection box?
Oh, now just wait a minute. Listen, you can't talk.
Aren't we mightily cheeky, my good sir?
He's very excitable. Sit down.
Excitable? You bet I'm excitable. We're trying to put a guilty man in the chair where he belongs. Someone starts telling us fairy tales and we're listening.
Fairy tales. That actor is turning in a very fine performance.
I did. You like me to tell you why?
No, I wouldn't like you to tell me why.
Do tell.
This gentleman has been standing alone against us. Now, he doesn't say the boy is not guilty. He just isn't sure. Well, it's not easy to stand alone against the ridicule of others, so he gambled for support.
Yeah, it takes a certain constitution to be in the minority intellectually. I myself, if I were in this jury, it just occurred to me that I never even considered what it must be like inside of a jury room in any real sense. So this is a significant film.
Some account exec will get up and he'll say, okay, here's an idea. Let's run it up the flagpole and see if anyone salutes it. I mean, it's idiotic, but it's funny.
Jargon. Am I right?
You know, you do-gooders are all alike. You're always blowing the stacks over some guy that fan.
Called him a do-gooder.
What's that time for? Why don't you donate $5 to the cause and maybe it'll make you...
He aggressively forced his face into that napkin.
This kid is guilty, pal. It's his plain as the nose on your face. So why don't we stop wasting our time here? We're gonna all get sore throats if we keep it up, you know?
What difference does it make if you get it here at the ball game?
No difference, pal.
Talk about motivation. You just try to get out of here. That juror is not acting in good faith. And I have a feeling that by the end of this movie, most of these people will be acting in good faith.
Well, I don't know you, but I'm betting you've never been wronger in your life. If you're wasting your time, you ought to wrap it up.
Supposing you were the one who was on.
I don't know you. I bet you've never been more wrong than you are in this instant.
Supposing you talk us all out of this, and kid really did knife his father, huh?
That would be a tough pill. A tough pill to swallow, indeed.
Well, I was wondering how clearly the old man could have heard the boy's voice through the ceiling. Another apartment. It's not that easy to identify a voice, particularly a shouting voice.
Look at the camera gliding over these jurors. I am spellbound by this cinematography.
Has anybody here any idea how long it would take an elf?
Are these fellas playing tic-tac-toe? These tic-tac-hoes are not doing due diligence.
Did you see him? The nerve.
All right, listen.
The absolute nerve.
All right, forget it. It's not important. You know what
The temerity, the audacity.
The ball's on you, man.
When the window is open and the train goes by, the noise is almost unbearable. You can hardly hear yourself think.
You can't hear yourself think. Will you get to the point?
And I will, now just a minute.
That's such a poetic expression. I can't hear myself think. That accurately conveys a feeling of being oversaturated or overstimulated.
Therefore, the train had been roaring by the old man's window a full 10 seconds before the body hit the floor. The old man, according to his own testimony, I'm going to kill you, body hitting the floor a split second later. Had to hear the boy make this statement with the yell roaring past his nose. It's not possible he could have heard it.
That's idiotic. Of course he heard
Do you think he could have heard it?
He is picking apart this story with a fine-tooth comb.
Matter of seconds, nobody can be that accurate.
Well, I think testimony that could put a boy into the electric chair should be that accurate.
Something I don't think he could have heard it.
Attention, maybe.
The atmosphere is starting to shift.
You keep coming in with these bright sayings. Why don't you send them into a paper? They pay $3 a piece.
What are you talking to him like that for? Guy talks like that to an old man.
I like how they get my guy in a super close-up, really accentuating the expression on his face.
Like that to him again, I'm gonna lay you out.
He won't have it. He won't have the nuisance of the disrespect.
You say anything you like. Why do you think the old man might lie?
It was just that I looked at him for a very long time. Seemed his jacket was split under the shoulder. Oh, did you notice that?
It's like, I'll let you finish hacking up a lung.
This is a quiet, frightened, insignificant old man who has been nothing all his life, who has never had recognition or his name in the newspapers. Nobody knows him. Nobody quotes him. Nobody.
So now the witness of the old man is being put on trial in this room.
What are you talking about? Supposing he really did hear it. This phrase, how many times have all of us used it? Probably thousands. I could kill you for that, darling. Junior, you do that once more and I'm going to kill you. Get in there, Rocky, and kill. We say it every day. That doesn't mean we're really going to kill him.
John Mulaney, Dave Chappelle, they killed at the stand-up comedy show last night.
Now listen, this guy's trying to make you believe things that aren't so. The kid said he was going to kill him, and he did kill him.
Do you really think the boy'd shout out a thing like that so the whole neighborhood could hear him? I don't think so. He's much too bright for that.
Bright? He's a common, ignorant slob. He don't even speak good English.
I thought he was about to say he's a common ignorant slut.
Jane, you ignorant slut.
Could mean he didn't want the case, or he resented being appointed. The kind of case that brings him nothing. No money, no glory, not even much chance of winning. That's not a very promising situation for a young lawyer.
It's conceivable that a court-appointed lawyer would just phone it in.
Oh, look, will you look at the time? Huh? Come on, for crying.
Pardon me?
At this rate, I'm not even going to make the 7th inning stretch.
He would have had to be calm enough to see to it that there were no
fingerprints left on the knife. Now, where did this panic start and where did it end?
Look, you voted guilty. What side are you on?
He's displaying such eagerness and excitement on his countenance.
It's just off the top of my head, but well, if I were the boy and I'd done the stab,
Glasses McGee over here.
I just don't think that he would have gone back.
Two things. In his state of panic, he may not have heard the scream. Perhaps it wasn't very loud. If he did hear it, he may not have connected it with his own act. Remember, he lived in a neighborhood where screams were fairly commonplace.
There's your answer.
Maybe.
I am appreciating the logical exploration of this movie.
Did or didn't the old man see the kid running out of the house at 12:10? Well, did or didn't he?
He says he did.
Says he did. Boy, how do you like that?
Now, look, witnesses can make mistakes.
Sure, when you want...
Therein lies the concept of hearsay in the court of law.
You people are talking only about the little details. You're forgetting the important stuff. I mean, all of a sudden... I'm talking here. Another vote called for.
He's telling them to zoom out a little bit. They're growing increasingly irate. 12 irate men.
I'm telling you, we can yada yak here next Tuesday. Where's it all getting us?
Pardon? I vote
I mean, it's progress of a kind.
not guilty.
Another one. DJ Khaled.
Hey, what is this? Love your underprivileged brother week or something?
Said he went from his bedroom to the front door. Now, isn't that enough?
Where was the bedroom?
It was down the hall somewhere.
I thought you remembered everything. Don't you remember that?
Mr. Foreman, I'd like to see a diagram of the apartment.
Look, why don't we just have him run the trial all over again so we get everything
How come
straight?
you're the only one?
I mean, after all, he is an architect, so it's a fitting notion.
How does he know how long 15 seconds is? You can't judge a thing like that.
He said 15 seconds. He was very positive.
That juror has a penchant for flying off the handle.
He was an old man. Half the time he was confused. How could he be positive about anything?
Hey. Come on now. You can see the look of self-awareness on his face.
Why don't you stop making smart remarks all the time?
Oh, my friend, for your $3 a day,
All right,
you
now
have to
you
listen
got
to
that thing
everything.
in.
He's coming to everybody's defense. He's like, I won't have the disrespect. We're going to be civil, or you about to get these hands.
Near the stairs. Now, the old man was in this bedroom right here. Says he crossed to the door and walked down the hall, opened the front door, just in time to see the boy running down the stairs. Am I right so far? 15 seconds after the body hit the floor.
I mean, that's a long ways to travel.
He would have had to walk 12 feet, open the bedroom door, walk 43 feet down and open the front door, all in 15 seconds. You think he could have done it?
he can walk only very slowly. They had to help him in.
Yeah, in a hover round, he could have done it.
Has anybody got a watch for the second hand?
I have.
Want me to start? Stamp your foot? That'll be the body falling. You can tie me from there.
What are we going to do, play charades now?
Come on.
Come on, what are we waiting for?
Well, I want to wait till the second.
Play charades.
Come on, speed it up. He walked twice as fast as that.
If you want me to walk faster than that, I will.
Henry Fonda is garnering a larger and larger foothold for the non-guilty verdict.
You all know he's guilty. He's got to burn. You're letting him slip through our fingers.
Slip through our fingers? Are you his executioner?
An argument could be made that he's being intransigent.
Ever since you walked into this room, you've been acting like a self-appointed public avenger.
Captain Marvel.
You want to see this boy die because you personally want it, not because of the facts. You're a sadist.
Kill him, Alt. Kill him.
You don't really.
A sadist. Talk about leveling an accusation.
We have nothing to gain or lose by our verdict. This is one of the reasons why we are strong. We should not make it a personal thing.
That is a profound point. 12 strangers don't know the defendant, just facts on a piece of paper. And on the facts alone, the available body of evidence. That's that with which you're to draw your conclusion.
Boy, oh boy, it's really hot, huh? Pardon me, but don't you ever sweat?
No, I don't.
Listen,
He's cool as a cucumber.
Maybe we should take another vote.
oh, great. Maybe we can follow this one up with a little dancing and refreshments, huh?
Mr. Foreman,
I know he's being depicted as callous, but he's an effective comedy relief.
Not guilty.
Number 3.
Guilty.
Number 4.
Surprise, surprise. And the lighting has shifted. So their faces are in shadow and light, kind of visually
Not guilty.
symbolizing the doubt that each one of them and the conflict and ambivalence and cognitive dissonance each one of them holds in this moment, regardless of whether they are voting guilty or not guilty. They're not convinced wholly either way. So, I love visual language.
The facts are supposed to determine the case.
Don't give me that. I'm sick and tired of facts. You can twist them any way you like. You know what I mean?
That's exactly the point. This gentleman has...
How prescient. We do live in an age of the infamous alternative facts.
Oh, come on. You're like everybody else. You think too much, you get mixed up. You know what I mean?
Now, listen, I don't think you...
So he's admonishing critical thinking. That's a belief you can have. Thinking too much gets you mixed up. An unexamined life is not worth living, I heard someone say. Or did I just make it up? I didn't. What does the rain fall signify within the context of this story?
Hey, huh? Must be on the same switch with the lights. Well, things are looking up here, huh?
I am a fan of this movie. This movie is fantastic. I can see why it has such a fandom.
And you guys ever go to the garden?
That's a damn stupid thing to do.
Oh, sorry,
Oh, he snapped, dude. He snapped. That's funny. He's like, you foolish rapscallion. You hit me with that for?
I'm telling you, they're all alike. They come over here running for their life, and before they can take a deep breath, they're telling us how to run the show, huh? Boy, the arrogance of this guy.
Hey, all right. Let's stop the arguing for about 2 minutes in here.
My brother here is flirting with xenophobia.
After the boy claimed he'd been at the movies during the hours that the killing took place, couldn't remember the names of the movies or the stars who appeared in them. This gentleman here has brought that point in here several times.
That's correct.
Okay. Not unheard of. Not unheard of.
The boy couldn't remember the names of the movies he saw because he wasn't there that night.
According to the police testimony,
It's a fair point.
he was in the kitchen of his apartment, while the body of his father was lying on the floor in the bedroom. You think you could remember details under those circumstances?
I do.
Under great emotional stress?
Under great emotional stress.
He remembered them correctly and...
I mean, he never sweats, so I think you're barking up the wrong tree here.
Go ahead.
Where were you last night?
I left the office at 8:30 and went straight home and to bed.
And the night before that?
It's Tuesday night, the night of the bridge tournament. I played bridge.
Monday night?
When you get down to New Year's Eve, 1954, let me know, eh?
How far back we going, brother?
My wife and I went to the movie.
What did you see?
The Scarlet Circle. It is a very clever whodunit.
The second feature.
I'll tell you in a minute.
Uh-oh. The cracks are starting to show, my friend.
And you weren't under an emotional stress, were you?
No.
And for the first time in the movie, a very conspicuous trickle of sweat. A bead of sweat coming down his forehead. Now that's inspired filmmaking. Inspired.
Now, the boy was 5 feet 7 inches tall. His father was 6'2". That's a difference of 7 inches. It's a very awkward thing to stab down into the chest of someone who's more than half a foot taller than you are.
Give me that. I'll give you a demonstration. Somebody get up.
Who's gonna be the guinea pig to get stabbed?
I want you to watch this because I don't want to have to do it again. I'll make myself about 6 or 7 inches shorter, okay?
It's about right, maybe a little more.
Oh, what if he accidentally stabs him?
Now, this is the way I'd stab a man who was taller than I was. Look at the angle. Down and in. This is the way it was done. Now tell me I'm wrong.
I actually thought for a second that there was an outside chance that he was gonna stab him. This movie is arresting.
How do you know? Were you in the room when the father was killed?
No. Neither was anybody else.
What are you giving us all this mumbo jumbo for? I don't.
Mumbo jumbo. What are you giving me all this hokum for? This humbug, this hogwash, this balderdash.
I don't know about the rest of them, but I'm getting a little tired of this yakety-yakking back and forth. It's getting us nowhere. So I guess I'll have to break it up.
Yakety yak. Don't talk back.
I changed my vote to not guilty. You heard me. I had enough.
What do you mean you've had enough? That's no answer.
Hey, listen, you just take care of yourself, huh? You know?
He's right.
Out of all people, I don't think he would have been the last person to alter his vote.
Now, listen, buddy.
Who tells you that you have the right to play like this with a man's life? Don't you care?
Now, wait a minute.
If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything.
And if you think he is guilty, then vote that way. Or don't you have the guts to do what you think is right?
Now, listen.
Guilty or not guilty?
Guts. Them's just fighting words.
Look, I don't have to...
You do have to. Say it. Why?
I don't think he's guilty.
Okay. Circular reasoning. He's guilty because I think he's guilty. And I think he's guilty because he's guilty. Have some integrity, bro. Some integrity.
Raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Oh, snap. We're approaching unanimous decision.
Look, you know how these people lie? It's born in them. I mean, what the heck? I don't have to tell you. They don't know what the truth is.
He's still hanging on to this argument of the stereotype.
Most of them like to have no feelings. They can do anything. What's going on here? I'm trying to tell you. You're making a big mistake, you people. This kid is a liar. I know it. I know all about them. Listen to me. They're no good. There's not a one of them who is that.
This is enchanting camera movement and blocking. He's becoming a pariah in this room. A pariah, an outcast. Persona non grata. What he's saying is so detestable that they need physical space.
There's a danger here. These people are dangerous.
Sit down and don't open your mouth again.
I heard what you said, and I can do without it. Ooh, riveting. Camera's gonna glide right past him.
It's always
He got the stink on him. The stink.
Gambling on probabilities, we may be wrong. We may be trying to let a guilty man go free. I don't know. Nobody really can.
It's possible. It's within the realm of possibility.
And as she looked out, she saw the killing through the windows of a passing L train. She said the lights went out immediately after the killing, but that she got a good look at the boy in the act of stabbing his father.
Is she a credible source, though? It begs the question.
How about you?
I don't know. So much evidence to see.
He can't speak. He can't articulate himself without the glasses. As much has been established.
Yeah, well, maybe...
Let's vote on it.
Okay, there's another vote called for. Anyone object?
All right, I'm changing my vote. He's guilty.
Oh.
4.
Why is this such a personal triumph for you? One vote.
Okay, I say we're a hung jury. I say we take it into the judge.
One can't help but suspect that his 18-year-old son, he's harboring resentment and a grudge over his 18-year-old son, and that may be subconsciously influencing his decision-making right now.
6:15. Summoned before mentioned 7 o'clock. I think that's a point at which we might begin to discuss the question of whether we're a hung jury or not.
Don't you feel well?
I feel perfectly well, thank you.
Yeah, you good, bro?
For time.
But you made a gesture that reminded me of something.
I'm trying to settle something here, do you mind?
Well, I think this is important.
He said you better have a better. Where's he going with this?
I was wondering why you rub your nose like that.
Oh, come on, will you?
At this point, I happen to be talking to the gentleman sitting next to you.
Don't misconstrue the situation. Don't. I would not be misunderstood.
Your eyeglasses made those two two deep impressions on the sides of your nose. I hadn't noticed that before. I've never worn eyeglasses. 2020.
Listen, will you come on already with the optometrist?
My interest is piqued.
Who testified that she saw the killing and those same marks on the sides of her nose.
Holy smokes, you know he's right.
My brain is reeling. What are the implications?
How do you know whether she wore glasses? Just because she was rubbing her nose?
Now, she had those marks. I saw them.
Well, so what? What do you think that means?
Listen, I'm getting so sick of your yelling at here.
Come on, forget it.
He's bellicose. Chivalrous bellicosity.
Well, what about the district attorney? You think he'd pull a trick like that? Have her testify without her glasses?
Did you ever see a woman who had to wear glasses and didn't want to because she thinks they spoil her looks?
Okay.
Mm.
She didn't want to wear them out of the house, or people would think she's gorgeous.
Maybe she honestly thought she saw the boy kill his father. I say she only saw a blur.
How do you know what she saw? How does he know all that? How do you know what kind of glasses she wore? Maybe the...
Knowledge is tricky. Knowledge is tricky, man. Epistemologically, it's tricky.
You can't send someone off to die on evidence like that.
Oh, don't give me that.
Don't you think the woman might have made a mistake? It's not possible.
No, it's not possible.
I mean, the case is closed, at least as far as the jury is concerned. Because once you enter this into the discussion, that seals the deal. Like, I don't know if that guy actually murdered him, but you can't hang the declaration of guilty on someone who wears glasses and possibly didn't have them on.
Not guilty.
What's the matter with you?
I have a reasonable doubt now.
11 to 1.
But what about all the other evidence? What about all that stuff? The knife?
And then there was one. One is the loneliest number that you ever knew.
Well, what do we do now?
You're alone. I don't care whether I'm alone or not. It's my right.
Oh, how the tables have turned. Oh, it just entered into my brain that this all has taken place in one room, the whole movie.
I gave you my arguments.
We want to hear them again. We have as much time as it takes.
The burden is on you to lay out a persuasive premise and conclusion.
Every single thing that took place in that courtroom, but I mean everything, says he's guilty. What do you think? I'm an idiot or something?
The knife falling through a hole in his pocket. You can't prove he didn't get to the door. Sure, you can take all the time, hobble around the room, but you can't prove it.
Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence.
I'm telling you, I've got all the facts here. Here.
Oh, the image of the sun. It's a nice touch.
Well, say something.
Say something, I'm giving up on you.
You're not going to intimidate me. I'm entitled to my opinion.
It's true. You're entitled to wrong opinions as well. Oh, man. His estrangement from his son is eating him alive.
Not guilty. Not guilty.
And he had conflated his feelings towards his son and the guilt of it with the defendant, the guy who's on trial for murdering his father. It's not insignificant. Oh, that's heavy. That's heavy. And brilliant. Equally heavy and brilliant. Like, I got goosebumps. Can you see it? Probably not, right? Oh, look at that shot, huh? Henry Fonda's head was just above the bar of the coat rack. Almost as if Henry Fonda passed the bar in a certain sense. I mean, I read too much into the movie, so I could just be conjecturing and speculating wildly. But I think there's something to that. Visual symbolism. The notion of passing to the bar. Splendid. Splendid shot right there. All of the evidence, all the dips and turns being highlighted and summarized in a sweeping shot of the table at which they discussed their verdict.
What's your name?
Davis.
My name's McCardle. Well, so long.
we just experienced something momentous and important and had actual bearing and meaning in the world, and now we're gonna go our separate ways. The end. Oh, wow, man. Wowzers. That is a hell of a picture. That's a hell of a picture. And yeah, it's so gripping. It's so arresting. It has such a profound level of immediacy that you forget that all of this is taking place. The 99% of this movie is confined to this one room. No flashbacks are needed because the storytelling is so potent and so effective and so calculated and measured that we are totally ensconced within the story world. And we almost are seeing things through the defendant's eyes, in a certain sense, from the perspective of the outcome of his life is being decided between this random group of people who have no stakes. Like that one guy stood up in, I think, jury number 3 or whatever the fuck. He stood up and said, "We are just 12 guys in here. We don't have a dog in this race." And it's just it was a majestic film. That's a majestic film, man. It's wild. This is how the court cases find their conclusion. 12 strangers assemble in the room and lay out the body of evidence, exhibit A's and B's and what have yous, and discuss amongst each other whether or not they should believe or disbelieve a person on the stand or someone being charged of a crime. And the formula of this movie is airtight. Henry Fonda is the only one who has reservations. He's the only one who has an inkling of suspicion that the guy on the stand is not guilty, killing his father. The only one. And I like the formula of the movie, how we bear witness to the roller coaster of arguments and counter arguments on the basis of reason. They lay out sets of premises, reasons why we should believe something, and whether or not that accurately supports an idea of guilt or innocence. And the different characters within it, like the one guy, he maintained the argument of these are just these kind of people. It's just their nature, who they are inherently, taking the stance of discrimination. And that was such a moving, impactful shot when he was standing up and declaiming his ignorance and saying, poor people, essentially, if we were to distill his argument down to its bare bones, essentially what he's saying, that poor people, they are all criminals, and we should just believe that he killed his father based on the circumstantial evidence. And it was circumstantial. It was relatively convincing. If saying you're going to kill him, he winds up dead. Someone sees you running out of the house, allegedly. And that alone does lend some credence to the idea that he is guilty. But the guy who was exhibiting a lot of prejudice was just ready to hurl him to the to the electric chair just on the basis of his socioeconomic status and perhaps his ethnicity. But I think it was more of the poverty aspect than it was the race, but who's to say? And the little memorable characters, like the guy who every time he spoke, he put on his glasses in order to make his arguments more clear, I suppose. And the guy who never sweated, allegedly, and the guy who said he never sweated. Everybody else was crumbling almost under the weight of the immense heat. The fan wasn't working, the windows were up, it was baking outside. everybody's sweating, taking off their jacket. There's one calm, cool, and collected guy who didn't break a sweat until he started to get questioned about his past few days, which cast some doubt onto whether or not the detail of the kid couldn't remember the movie he saw or the actresses in it. You know, it didn't bear any significance. Yeah, this is just like a insightful, stimulating movie that has real world ramifications, deciding whether someone is guilty or innocent for any crime. But in one of the most severe cases, premeditated murder, and it's just so glaring and so eye-opening and thought-provoking that I found myself enraptured the entire, what was it, like 90 minutes, I think, 96 minutes, give or take. I've seen so many movies, but there are so many I haven't seen, and I am having a hell of a time, man. I am having a great time catching up and adding to my base of cinematic knowledge. The wonderful image of the guy who was estranged from his son, the last person to shift his vote from guilty to not guilty. He had already expressed his fight with his son in an attempt to make him a man, and how he was 16. It's been 2 years, so he is laboring under so much guilt and anger and frustration about the condition of his relationship with his son, who just so happens to be the same age. And I think that's really a pivotal character. You know, the movie more or less hinges on him, right behind Henry Fonda, of course. And that's the fulcrum of the movie. But the last guy who turned and had a son the same age as the defendant, and who he was not on good terms with, and that was factoring in, perhaps subconsciously and dreadfully, murderously factoring into his decision of not guilty for the main portion of the movie. And him ripping it up, and then him not being able to bear it any longer, it was just like revelatory to me. And the way the camera was moving and shifting back and forth, you would think there was more real estate than it actually was. You know, it was then just small, kind of like cramped jury room where they were deliberating. But the way the camera moves and cut to a tight close-up of a face at the appropriate time versus when it opted to sweep across the room and show a wide shot, it was just delicately and finely balanced that left me pleased emotionally and psychologically with the results. So yeah, it's just democracy, am I right? Democracy. It's such a great idea to have this. So in order to, you know, what with the checks and balances and the impartiality of justice, Lady Justice should be blind. Lady Justice. So the facts on the paper is all with which we have to work. And it's incumbent upon the lawyers and the jurors to think critically and consider all the evidence and the likelihoods and the very distinct system of logic as to whether or not they should try someone and find them guilty or not guilty based off the information at hand. And it's just something, this is a remarkable movie. Needless to say, it's remarkable. And I'm about to watch it again. That's how intrigued I am by it. So thank you for watching this with me. Hope you had as much fun as I did while watching the movie. Don't forget to like this video. Leave me some comments down below. If you haven't subscribed already, come on. Do your boy a solid. And support me on the Patreon. Appreciate all my patrons. Appreciate all my patrons. Join the channel if you feel so inclined, if you're capable. If not, the view is more than helpful. You know. But 12 Angry Men, 1957. That was a doozy. And as always, till we meet again.